Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sisterly. You're here with your co hosts, Rebecca and Olivia,
Welcome, fam.
and we're happy to be back.
We're happy to be back with you. Let me tell you, it's a later evening podcast for
Yeah.
me, and especially for Rebecca because she's 3 hours ahead of me. So if we're a little loopy, it's because it's a little late night. Honestly, it's like 7:30. That's like late night for me. Like I'm already in like the sun's been gone for 2 hours. I'm like it's bedtime. Um, but we're running a little late today because I was donating blood, which feels like a weird excuse.
It was some
But
altruism, got in the way of our scheduled time, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do.
it's interesting because I feel like the first time I donated blood, it really was like, I really want to I like started at the beginning of the pandemic. So now 2 years ago, I started donating blood. And I was like, I really want to do something that's like beneficial to the healthcare industry, blah, blah, blah. Like, anyhow. But now, like, listen, when you donate blood once, they will do anything in their power to get you to keep coming back.
They will
Okay.
find you.
They will email you, they will cold call you, they will text you, they will tell you that there is a critical blood shortage, that your blood saves lives. Like, they will tell you everything and anything to get you to come back. And, like, it's not that I have a problem going back to donate blood, but it's interesting because whenever I donate blood, it seems like it's really a hassle for the people who have to deal with me, and I say this because I have really tricky veins, and
Mm,
also half of the time my iron levels aren't even high enough to donate, so, like, there've been several times I've gone in and they just, like, turn me away, which
yeah.
is a bummer, because then I don't get my post-blood donation Oreos, and then when I am able to donate, my veins are so impossible to find that they always have to bring over, like, the expert,
Do
like,
you
the
drink a
different
lot of water before you go?
I do. I mean, I'm not drinking an insane amount of water. I'm like I drink
Yeah.
water all day, but I should be more hydrated, but just in general, my veins are, like, really tricky to find, so they
Hmm.
always have to bring over the, like, vein expert.
Oh, boy.
Today was Joan. Joan was great, and, I mean, they really cut off the circulation in my arm. I mean, they are just tightening it and making me squeeze, and there's no blood flow going to my arm for them to find that vein. And the place I used to go, they had, like, the little baby needles.
Oh, yeah, I love those. They always give me those because my veins are hard to find too.
Yeah. Wow, it's a genetic
Or I'm just,
blessing
like,
for us.
constantly not drinking enough water, I don't know. That could be it as well.
Anywho, but at this location, they don't have the baby needles. They only have the regular person needles,
Mm,
which
that's tough.
my veins are not used to because I'm used to being treated like a baby. So
You're like, "How am I supposed to live, laugh,
then
love
I'm
under
like,
these
yeah,
conditions?"
seriously, how am I supposed to live, laugh, love? Like, ow. Okay, you can barely even feel the baby needle. It's meant for
Yeah,
a baby.
I
Like, you can't
know.
even feel it.
That's what the people want.
Um,
I will say though, like, obviously, like, no one's a fan of needles, but I was literally talking to Mike yesterday about how I'm very grateful that I'm not a person who, like, passes out at, like, the sight of
yeah.
needles. Like, I know some people who it's just, like it's not even like, oh, they're like, "Oh, I'm afraid to get a shot," or whatever. It's like they literally see it and they just, like, pass out. It's like
Yeah,
a body reaction, and I'm like, "That is
it's
so
crazy.
rough." I'm like, "I never liked it," but I'm like, I sit there and I'm fine. It's like, whatever, this is a hassle, but
Also, I
to
got oh, sorry, go ahead, keep going.
no, I was just gonna say to, like, have to, like, pass out or need to sit down or have it, like, be a potential outcome must be so anxiety inducing ahead of time. Like, that cannot
Agreed.
be pleasant.
Listen, we know I got over my fear of needles, when we got rabies vaccine circa, I don't
Yeah,
know, 2008?
2000. Yeah, probably 2008, 2009.
Now that's a story for a different time because that's a long story. But it ended up with Rebecca and I getting many vaccinations for rabies,
Yeah.
and I kinda got over my fear of needles then, and yeah, they don't really bother me. I mean, I don't like it,
Yeah, no one
but
loves it, but, like, I'm pretty indifferent to them at this point, especially because I also got allergy shots once
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
graduated college, and I used to have to get multiple shots every week. So, it's like it is what it is. I'd rather, like, you know what it is? I'd rather get, like, a shot than, like, a number of other inconveniences. Like, let me
Totally.
tell you what I will not do is get a throat swab for a strep
Oh
throat
my
test.
god. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
I'd rather be injected a lot of times than have
yeah.
someone stick a thing in my throat. Like, I can't do it. I will not. I,
Yeah,
like, will just
100%.
be like I'll just straight up tell the doctor, I'm like, "Pretty sure it's strep. Like, can you just give me a general antibiotic that would, like, work for strep? Like, I don't wanna get the test thing."
You're like, "Listen, this is gonna be a whole lot more traumatic if you make me sit here and you put the little tongue depressor on my tongue and then the
Yeah.
little swabby thing."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, exactly. I'm like, "Nobody like, I let me help you. Like, you don't want this. I don't want
you know, it was
this."
always the worst case scenarios growing up when because we had strep I had strep a lot growing up, and I feel like
Yeah.
you did too, or it just at least it felt like a lot because the trauma of having to get throat swabbed, like, stuck with me
Mhm.
so strongly. But I remember it happened to me, like, at least once or twice where they did the rapid test and it came back negative, and so then I had to go back and get the, like, legitimate test, and there's truly nothing worse than that. Like,
Yeah.
first you go in there and you know you have strep because, listen, you know what it feels like when you have strep.
Right.
There's
It's
no pain
incredibly
like it,
painful. Yeah.
okay? Like,
You
it's
know
clearly
it.
strep. And you go in there, they swab you, and then, like, 3 hours later, they're like, "Just kidding, you don't have strep, so you just have to, like, sit through this pain until it's done." So then you sit there for another 24 hours, it's still not going away. So then you go back and you get the normal test, and then they have to wait for that one
Yep.
for 24 hours. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" At this
Yeah.
point, like,
There's honestly,
knock me
like
out.
I'd honestly rather get a pap smear. I'd rather get a nose swab, literally anything else, just, like,
I'd probably
don't
rather
swab
get
my
nose
throat.
surgery again than have strep throat and have to get a throat swab.
You know, I'm
And
like,
some
the
might say that's
list
traumatic, but I don't think it is.
the list of things that are more tolerable than a throat swab is very long for me.
Yeah. So anywho,
A
for
tangent,
everyone
but the
who
more you
doesn't
know.
yeah, for everyone who doesn't like anything doctor related, I'm sure you really just enjoyed those first few minutes of the podcast. Anywho, I'm okay.
Survived the blood donation.
Survived it. It was touch and go there because I had to wait 2 hours, but it's fine, you know. Like they said, it's life-saving, so you can't just walk out because it's inconvenient. Anywho,
You're a good
so
person.
okay, but also I'm like I'm doing like truly the bare minimum. And every time I go, they're like, "Do you want to do the double donation?" And I'm like, "Listen, Linda, you're lucky that my iron is high enough for me to even be
Right, you're
here."
like, "I'm not trying to pass out. I'll have to sit here a while if you take double."
Like, do you know how many times your machine beeps because my blood isn't flowing fast enough because my vein is the size of a thumbtack? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you trust me, you don't want me to do that. You
Yeah.
don't. So, I'm like, let me help you, okay?
Right. Help me help you.
But anywho, so that's done, and I'm already signed up for the next one in 8 weeks because they literally make you sign up when you're checking in. Before you
Yeah.
even check in, they're like, "Let's sign you up for the next donation."
Wow. I've just I've never been solicited, but it's because your blood type's better.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you would be solicited if you went one time. They would
Yeah.
never let you go, okay? This is a lifelong
Expose.
cult I'm a
Olivia is a
part
better
of.
person than me,
Mm,
obviously.
no, it's like I've joined a cult. I can't get out now, okay?
It's like that episode of Friends where, like, they try to quit the gym
It's
and then they
exactly
can't.
like that.
They can't. That's you with blood donation.
Yes. Yes, because especially what's even worse is the second you're like, "I don't wanna do this anymore," they're like, "But the lives."
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even about your own health, it's about other people, so there's a way
Yeah,
higher guilt trip there.
but I'm just joking around, like, I really don't mind. It's just like, you know, sitting there for 2 hours is meh. Not the
Not the
most fun
most
thing I could do on
convenient
a
thing.
Monday.
Yeah.
But anyhow, what's new with you, Rebecca?
You know, not too much. Trying to live, laugh, love in these trying times. But I do have a new thing that I started today is I started watching the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And the only other Real Housewives franchise I've watched is all of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Highly enjoyable.
Yeah,
Real
would
House
recommend.
Yeah,
Would
would
recommend that.
recommend. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is wild. It is so unique because there's just like all these elements in like Salt Lake City culture that don't exist in at least where I live or in the Beverly Hills franchise. So it's fascinating Everyone's very interesting. I'm hooked. So,
Yeah, I can't wait to start. I've been needing to start for a long time. I got thrown off by Love Island.
mm, a
It's
worthy
time.
reason. But yeah, you need to watch it so that we can discuss. I need to know what your thoughts are on a lot of the characters. Some of them are really out there.
I need you to watch Real Houses of New Jersey.
I know. I'll do it after. There's only one season of Real House of Salt Lake City, so I'm sure I'll get through it real quick.
Yeah, that's true. Real Houses of New Jersey is my favorite of the franchise, in case anyone wanted to know, or my favorite franchise. Wouldn't it be a franchise, right? Like the show isn't a franchise. Jersey's a franchise of the show. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Jersey's my favorite. Um, yeah. If you want to see some drama that unfolds into physical altercations, watch Real Housewives of New Jersey. Freaking crazy. Um, but anywho, we do have a topic for today.
Yeah.
Other
And
than
it's not
me,
about blood drawing
yeah,
or
it's not
Real
just about
Housewives.
me donating blood. We do have a legitimate topic, although I'm sure that first part was really riveting for everyone. Um, and this topic kind of came to me yesterday, when I was lounging around. Well, so I've had a very busy week. The past week, I've had some friends that were in town visiting, which was absolutely amazing. Shout out to them. Oh, also, okay, one more tangent before we get into it. It is one of my besties for the resties' birthdays tomorrow. So shout out
Woohoo.
Rachel. She's an avid podcast listener, so she
Fuck
gets a happy birthday
yeah.
shout out.
Love you, Rachel.
Um, love you, boo. And now, okay, back to what I was saying.
Back to our
So
regularly scheduled programming.
yes, so my some of my friends from high school were here this week, and we were doing a lot, which was wonderful. And um, the last day they were here, we went to the park with some friends all day and just like hung out, had some wine in the park, then had seltzers in the park, then went to dinner, had some margaritas at dinner. Anyhow, we were having a good time. Um, but I woke up the next morning, um, feeling like, well, I was hungover, so let's just call it what it is. But I was feeling kind of anxious and like really down. And so I recently heard on another podcast, they were actually talking about someone who decided to quit drinking. This is not me revealing that I'm not drinking anymore, but they were talking about on that podcast, and they were talking about like the fact that there are scientific reasons, that sometimes after a day of drinking, you'll wake up the next morning, with a lot of anxiety. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to try and explain that too much. But if you're interested, look into drinking and the GABA receptor, GABA, GABA. I don't know. This is why I could never be a scientist. But the point of all of that is I woke up with heightened anxiety despite the fact that the day before I had had like an amazing day and a great time with my friends. And there can be a lot of reasons for waking up with anxiety, but I think that's what caused that one, and it won't just go away. It kind of sticks with you all day long for honestly like chemical reasons, which is the reason that we have anxiety and mental health
Mhm.
disorders. A lot of those are chemical reactions. Like they're chemical reactions. Like I know what I'm talking about. Anywho, but the point of this long-winded intro to the topic is that it made me think of the fact that sometimes I wake up and I'm just not my best self, like
Mhm.
whether it's because I have a hangover and I'm feeling kind of down and doubting myself about everything that I've done my entire life, or, you just wake up. They say you can wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And it's true. Sometimes you just wake up and it's not your best day. You're not feeling yourself, but you still have to live that day. And so you need to kind of figure out how to proceed. And for me, I think what I've learned over time is that on those days when I'm really not feeling my best is when I kind of need to kick up the self care, compassion, and really just show up for myself, even though I don't really want to, I was
Mhm.
really feeling like I kind of wanted to just sit in the anxiety and let it take over instead of trying to like push back, not to make it go away, but to continue to move through the day so that I felt better.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was a long way of introing our topic of basically just showing up for yourself and showing self-compassion even when you don't want to and what that looks like.
Yeah. I think it's also important, like you were saying, you're anxious and you're trying to think of ways to take care of yourself and sort of change how you're feeling. And I think that that's so important also because I feel like on days where I've just sat and sort of stewed on my anxiety or stewed on the fact that I'm like feeling not great about myself or questioning myself, then there's like often this added after effect of also now being like anxious and like feeling judgmental of yourself for now having wasted a day like sulking in it as opposed to like doing something productive, which is like also doubly unhelpful to then like
Mhm.
judge yourself for like not having your best day because like not every day is going to be just like your best day ever. But I think what we're hoping to talk about is like, what sorts of things we beat ourselves up for, and then how can you sort of try and redirect yourself or remind yourself to be kind and compassionate to yourself and not so judgmental of yourself or what you need, and then yeah, how you can show up for yourself so that you have the energy and the capability to keep moving through the day and start fresh the next one.
Yeah, because I think for me, sometimes one bad day can lead to multiple bad days because it's just kind of hard to get out of that mindset. And it's easy to just let yourself kind of sit in it. And I don't want it to come across like, if you have bad days, you're not allowed to just do
Right, right,
that.
right.
I'm
Sometimes
not
you need
like,
to wallow.
I'm like, it's all about your mindset. Like, no, that's sometimes it's just going to be a bad day, but you still have to take care of yourself and show up for yourself.
Yeah, so some of the things that I have sort of found myself beating myself up for or like judging myself for, and they've changed as I've gotten older. But like when I was younger, I used to beat myself up about like my grades or like studying hard enough or, comparing myself to like how other people that I was friends with were performing. And then it was, beating myself up for not ever having a boyfriend or getting asked out to a dance or whatever. And then, in college time, my early 20s, I would judge myself for my anxiety. I would judge myself for feeling anxious and not wanting to go out or feeling afraid to go to certain like scenes because I felt uncomfortable or I was worried I'd have like a panic attack or judging myself for again still being single and like not really feeling comfortable with like the New York dating scene or putting myself out there. And I feel like now it's more like I can get hard on myself about like how I communicate, still the anxiety stuff like that stuff is really hard to just sort of accept sometimes, but now it's more nuanced things like when I don't know exactly what I want or when I'm like struggling to communicate how I feel about something is when I sort of find myself getting into these sort of thought spirals where I'm sort of just negative towards myself about like how I'm handling something or not handling something or feeling like I should be doing something better. And obviously, it's completely natural to be self critical, but it's also can become very quickly very unhelpful. And a lot of times, it's like the thoughts that you have aren't really productive. They just like it starts pulling in not only just your initial worries, but like additional worries that come out of nowhere. And then like my anxiety like adds in things that are like probably highly unlikely, but also just like adds in there. And then there's like a fun shame component when you like think about all the time you're wasting, like being anxious or the things that maybe you're missing out on or how you could have done things differently. And it's all just wholly unproductive. um, and so I try and, you know, do certain things and actively think of certain things to sort of pull myself out of those thought spirals and to be kinder to myself. And a lot of these I also learned by going to therapy. So like one way I show up for myself is by going to therapy. I find that to be like one of the best ways to help deal with my anxiety and also other things that I sometimes judge myself for. And some of the tools that I've picked up there are like reminding myself that my anxiety is a part of me, and it's better to acknowledge and accept my anxiety and just try to move through it or understand it rather than to fight or reject it. And that, it's a part of me. So just disliking a part of me or hating a part of me isn't helpful. And trying to acknowledge what it is, acknowledge what causes it, and remember all of the things that I've learned about how to better deal with it, um, can be helpful for me. Um, Another thing I do is try to remind myself of the fact that some of the things that I struggle with or that I judge myself for are the results of past life experiences. And sometimes it's okay that I'm still unlearning certain things from the past or unlearning certain coping skills that I just picked up that served me at one point and don't serve me anymore. And to just remember that, at one point, me being, really anxious or really, um, strict with myself about things like school or studying or working hard or trying to be perfect were maybe admirable at one point or maybe made sense at one point, but don't serve me the same way anymore. And it's doesn't mean that I'm bad. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. It's just like it's okay to change and to have a different way of handling things now, but it doesn't mean that my instinct to do things I've done in the past is, something to be so critical of. Um, I also try to remind myself of some of like the good qualities that I have. So if I find myself getting into a state where I'm just really like putting myself down or putting myself down for how I handled something, like a situation, I just try to remind myself about the things that I like about myself or that like make me me, and like that I have other qualities that me being anxious or me, criticizing myself for whatever it is that day is not all of me. Like there's a lot of elements to me, and that's just one part of it, and it's not even close to the biggest part of me.
Totally. I think I agree with all of the things that you just said. Um, and I was thinking about this a lot yesterday when I just wasn't like I was in a horrible, horrible place, like I wasn't like my mental health was in a really, really negative place or like I needed help or anything like that. I just like I woke up and I was didn't feel good. Like I felt stressed. I
Mhm.
felt like I needed to question myself and it felt like that was going to ruin my day, because I just like couldn't seem to get out of that way of thinking, but I knew that there were certain things I could do to kind of try and still sit with the fact that it's just like not going to be my best day, but also not let it overtake me where, then I miss out on other things that I wanted to do because I'm just stressed or, anxious. So, I was supposed to go to brunch yesterday and I still did that. And it ended up being, a pretty horrific brunch for, which sounds very counterproductive to what I'm trying to say, but, it's just because the waiter heard me complaining that I didn't have enough syrup, and then he gave me syrup, but I never asked for it, like, he just heard me say that they didn't give me enough syrup. But anywho. But it was still good. I was still glad I went, it was like I got some fresh air. Because sometimes when I'm not feeling my best, I will, like, truly hermit,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just, like,
My instinct is to hermit,
become
but
a
it's
recluse.
yeah, exactly. But it's like even though that's my instinct, I have to fight it because often it's like not at all what's gonna help me in that
Yes.
moment.
Yes, and it's like I deprive myself of things that I need because I just think it's easier to let my bed swallow me up in burrito.
Mhm.
But so, I made myself go outside and, walk to brunch, which doesn't seem like it should, be that much, but it was good for me to like kind of clear my head for a little bit and just think about something else. Then all I was focusing on was how, you know, embarrassed I was about the syrup situation, syrup gate. And
Okay.
and then, I came home and um I cleaned the apartment a little bit, and Jack and I watched a movie and I got cozy, and then talked to Rebecca for like an hour, made a yummy dinner, and just that sounds like a pretty normal day, but sometimes there are little things that I will kind of like not deprive myself of, that might be the wrong word, but will just decide that I'm not going to do it because like the day has already been ruined by
Yeah,
my
it's like
mood.
it's a wash, so it's like, why bother?
Yeah. I'll be like, "Oh, well, I'll just like eat cereal," or I don't know, maybe I'll just like order takeout, which nothing wrong with takeout, but it's like I had this plan and I'm like, whatever, it's kind of ruined now, so I'm not gonna do it. Or I'll just like stay inside, or Jack and I will have a plan and I'm like, I'm already in a bad mood, like I'm not gonna get to enjoy it as much, or I just want to be left alone. And I think sometimes I have to push back against those instincts because what ended up making me feel better was cuddling on the couch with my boyfriend and watching a movie and making the meal that I said I was gonna make and just like taking it step by step, if that makes sense too. Like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
still gonna go to brunch.
Just doing, like, yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah, and we're gonna see what happens. Like, I'm gonna sit down and watch this movie that I've really been wanting to watch. I'm not gonna let my mood stop me from like doing this. And I was really glad that I watched it, just like little things one step at a time. And sometimes you can't do those things, and that's okay too. But I just think it ended up helping, and I felt like I woke up today so much happier. One, because, like, the little, like, chemical receptors in my brain were doing better. But also because I was really proud of myself that I had been able to
Find some good moments in your day yesterday.
yes, and not let my own anxiety about, you know, the day before or anything like that kind of get in the way of what I really wanted to do. And
Yeah.
this is something that's really, like, been hard for me. Sometimes I remember this would happen a lot to me in college. Like, I would just be so overwhelmed, or not, like, by college itself, but just not just, like, doubting myself or being stressed, that I would kinda just, like, shut down.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes that's like you were saying before, Rebecca, like, sometimes we do what we have to cope in the moment.
Mhm.
And for me now, I've found it more productive to try and just find, like, 1 or 2 small things to just either, like, get me out the door, or literally sometimes it's, like, switching out of my pajamas
I was just gonna say,
into, like, literally a new pair of pajamas
yeah,
or, like,
sometimes that's all.
leggings.
It's just, like, literally change your outfit. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's, like, a new pair of loungewear or it's like, "Oh, look at me, I'm gonna, like, actually put on, like, an outfit I'd wear out of the house," like, whatever, like, change. Or like sometimes I'm just like, you know what, all I'm doing today is taking a shower. It's like I'm
Yep.
taking a shower. I'll put a little conditioner mask on my hair and it's like, look
Mhm.
at me. I've like done something nice for myself. Or like you're
Totally.
saying, like you take a small walk outside, you do something to just like change your scene up just a little bit. Or
Yep.
you're like, yeah, clean one thing in your
Yeah, yeah.
apartment and you're like, you
Like,
know
I
what,
vacuumed today.
right, I'm like, I
Okay,
did one
that's
load
it.
of laundry, fantastic. Like, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think sometimes we don't acknowledge our small wins, and I think it can look different on every day. Like, some days you wake up and you have a great day. You have a super productive day at work, or, you get a workout in that you really wanted to get in. But sometimes it looks like you said showering,
Yeah.
changing my outfit, washing my hair is so big these days, okay?
Yeah. No, I
Um,
feel you.
and I felt like yesterday I was feeling that so strongly, where What I really wanted to do was not do anything for myself, and I just wanted to keep going over and over little things in my head,
Mhm.
but I knew that that was only gonna make me feel worse. And so I was like, "Okay, what's one thing that we can do?" And that first thing was a shower. Let me tell you. Changed my whole world.
Mhm. There's something transformative about taking a shower. Showers have so many good uses. It's like obviously, hygiene, but then it's like you could stay in the shower. You can have
Mhm.
fake arguments in the shower. You can think through something you need to think through in the shower. You could just be like transformed by being in the water for 5 minutes?
Yep. Plus, yesterday was hair wash day, so I got out
Nice.
of the shower like I'm literally a new person.
One other aspect to sort of like self compassion, self care that I was thinking of is, we're talking about showing up for yourself. And sometimes that means like taking care of yourself first so that you can then be better to take care of others or be more present for others. And sometimes it means prioritizing yourself when maybe other people are demanding your time or energy. And I have a lot of trouble not doing what people expect of me, or like not trying to be there for people and how they want me to be there for them. And I can have some people pleasing tendencies. And so I've mentioned this in other episodes, but I have a lot of trouble stopping and thinking about what it is that I want, or what it is that might be helpful to me, or what might make me feel better when I'm feeling like overwhelmed by things I need to do or things I need to do for other people. And I was reading something earlier about, the whole idea of like putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, like the thing that they always say on the airlines. And I've heard some people be critical of that, like, oh my God, why wouldn't you like put it on yourself first before your kids? And it's like, well, if you think about it logistically, it's like if you don't put yours on first, like you'll pass out without oxygen
Mhm.
after a few seconds. And it's like your kid probably can't put it on you. So it makes sense to like have it on you so that you can take care of everyone else. And it's like you're just you actually become a problem if you don't put your oxygen mask on yourself first, because now it's like you're going to have a traumatized child next to you who can't help you out, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a pretty good metaphor for just like a lot of life situations where it's like if you don't do at least the bare minimum to take care of yourself and do what you need to make sure that you're okay, you're actually a lot less useful to other people as well. So even if you're a person like me who's constantly thinking about like, what do other people need? And like, how can I be helpful? And what are other people expecting of me? And I don't want to let anyone down. I often find myself in these situations where I like hit a wall and it's like, well, I'm so busy thinking about what other people want or what will make other people happy or unhappy that I don't actually stop and think like, well, do I want that? Or what do I want? Do I want a version of that? And um, I just don't think that you can be the best for you or for others if you're totally depleted. So one thing I try to do more often, but it's still very much a work in progress, is to just sort of like stop and think about what do I want, or what would even be just like a really small thing that I could do that would reduce my stress somewhat, and then do that, even if that's like inconvenient or like not what somebody else expects. If it's like this small thing will drastically improve my stress or anxiety, then it's worth doing it so that I could actually be more present and helpful and um, have the energy and the space to do more.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think too, I'm even thinking back to my situation yesterday. Like, if I had woken up and I was like, you know what, going out and eating brunch with people is not going to help me, like, it's just going to make me more upset or stressed, then like think of that, if that's what you need in the moment, then you need to put yourself first. And I think we're often taught that taking care of yourself is honestly selfish. Like, that's what
Hmm.
people are taught, and I think
Especially women.
especially women, and I think, yesterday I woke up with this feeling of I'm stressed and anxious, and I kind of felt like it's my own fault that I feel this way. Like, I woke up hungover and now I'm anxious, and that's just like a result of that. So I just need to push through. But what I really needed to do was just accept where I was at and think about what it was that I needed to take care of myself first. Um, and sometimes that looks like changing plans or canceling things or doing the complete opposite of what we said and just burritoing. It really depends on what it is that you need first. And so I don't know who it was that like taught me this, but like someone said to me that you are your first priority. No one's going to look out for you except for you. Which I mean, I think that might seem a little extreme because obviously a lot of us have friends and family that look out for us, but you're number one. And so, if you wake up one day and it is not your day or something goes wrong and now you're overwhelmed and stressed, like what do you need to get back on track? That should be your priority. Alrighty, well, on that note, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Sisterly. We are so lucky to have you listening. We can't wait to see you on the next episode. And until then, we hope you have a wonderful week.